minutes. We'll make it probably 25, 30 minutes max to make sure we have a decent lunch and networking, because networking is a super important part. And we now have my panel looking at the whole area of authentication. So this is still not working, is it? I'm just speaking with my normal voice. Now, is this working? Yes, it is. There we go. Well, it's even better now. I can actually hear myself as well. So come on down, speakers. Now, without further ado, Rashmi from Surf. Daksesh from Pinnacle, come on as well. Good to have you. We've got Ajit Awanatharaman, have I got that right? I don't know, from CISO Hansa C Equity as well. And we have a late entrant to the panel, sitting all the way at the back. Come on, Andre, stand up. We've got Andre Anakin, who is the founder and CEO of Alaris Labs as well. Andre's come a long way for the event, so I thought, come on, get him up on stage. So please have a seat, everyone. There are 4 seats, and I'm the 5th person, so do you know what? Have a seat, all of you. And I can stand for this. No problem. Right. The topic at hand is authentication, and I've titled this session Authentication Game, because in many ways it has become a game. Our first panel, oh, wow, I've got a chair, thank you. I'm old, but I could stand. There we are. So it's become very much a game insofar that we heard about the commercial model pressures from the anti-fraud side of things. So organizations are very much looking for alternative ways, and we're talking about massive global organizations are looking for changes. But let's wind back the clock. Let's talk about the key channels, and we're talking about India here. Andre, of course, with your operations around the world, your customers truly are global, and of course other organizations here operate in other countries as well, but yours really are global, 100% from day one. And many, many messaging companies are using your platforms. So what's going on in the authentication world here in India? Rashmi, what channels are being used today? What pressures are there that might not have been mentioned yet? What are you seeing going on?
So James, like, all our experience in India right now, of course, SMS is the major channel of communication, when you are sending in OTPs. For authentication, of course, it is the major channel of communication, but we are finding in other ways and means, basically, to make the system more fraud, resistant. So today, OTPs, though they are being sent, but fraudsters are also finding ways and means how to capitalize on it. And SMS being the channel of communication, which is being widely misused, I would say. So what I feel, today, it is a time that we move from OTP to OTP-less.
But Rashmi, can I just ask you, in the UK, I've noticed in the past year or two, it never was like that, but it's making literally front page news now. So someone had their life savings, an 82-year-old had their £6,000 life savings stolen through SMS smishing. A bad attack like that. Is that getting a lot of publicity here in India as well? Is that something more recent with that level of publicity? If it is, what's happening on that score?
So the same is happening in India as well, wherein you are getting a message like, like the recent message that I received was, your electric connection is gonna get disconnected at night. It's like, when you are doing something, and it's like you take, the instant response to is, basically you click on the link, most of it, and many people have lost so much of money out of it. So this is actually the menace that is happening, I guess.
But is it getting more publicity in India?
Of course, it is now getting more of, yes. And we have so many awareness campaigns by the government of India also. You have so many, these ads on television telling people not to click on the links that come as part of the OTP, or you get any such message. Don't pass on the OTP to anybody else. Yes, that's something which is happening in India.
Okay, thank you. Dax, over to you. So I keep hearing from lots of people. I go to lots of events around the world, and lots of people say, oh, you should never use SMS for authentication now at all. And they're going, oh, SMS, bad. What would you say to that?
like for voice flash, I think this is one kind of instant drop call, in fact. Regarding that, I can say one thing that if I wish, I would like to accept this authentication method. Yes, I will go with that. But when I will be in other enterprises.
But is SMS all bad?
Yes, of course, with SMS itself.
No, not of course. Hopefully not for the industry here. We've got problems. But it's not all bad, is it? Surely.
No, not like that. Actually, I have worked with even banking industry for 10 years. I can understand when these are kind of fraud and fraudulent messages that we are collecting, and OTP, and they are required some personal details or authentication ID or something like that. Sometimes some kind of fraud cases can be happen. So this is happening, in fact.
Can I just ask from Hansa C? Do you know what? I didn't even ask people to introduce themselves. Shame on me on the panel. I'm assuming everyone knows who everyone is. But I think people have heard of your company, definitely heard about Surf today. If people haven't, they've very much been asleep. And lots of people will know about Alaris Labs. But Hansa C Equity, what do you do? And what's your take and what's your touch point on the world of authentication?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, everyone. So Hansa Security basically is a data-driven digital martech company. We provide end-to-end marketing solutions across the digital platform, A to Z, with in-house digital agency, in-house data scientists to do modeling and stuff, execution. We claim ourselves as technology and domain agnostic. So we are partners with all the OEMs, pretty much all the large names you can think of, certified guys, and we provide services across the board, including strategy. Answering your question, James, I think the previous session we had, one of the speakers rightly mentioned, gave a timeline starting from 1952 till date, how the banking system has evolved, right? The payment system has evolved, etc. I think here also we are seeing an evolution. There was a time when a single sign-on, a single factor authentication was the preferred way. Then we moved to two-factor authentication. Then we have gone to single sign-on, where you just log in once, and then you get access to the entire chain of systems. They're all linked. Now we have come to the passkey, ways. So all the apps in your mobiles, etc., are all passkey types, where you just put a PIN or a particular sign and you log in. Two-factor authentication is still being used very widely, especially in the banking system and the payment system. But then where people are trying to be innovative is to add multiple layers of two-factor. So not only when you log in, you have a two-factor, so you put an OTP or whatever. Also at critical junctions or points where you do some transaction, you add another leg to the authentication system. However, the flash voice calls, like O365, for example, Microsoft uses flash voice calls, right? So when you want to log into your O365 system. So those are all very convenient things, because SMS, while it is still a cost-effective method, it is still possibly serving to a large extent from a data security place. Like, so I being a CISO and a DPO, I would still minimum vouch for a 2FA, at least an OTP, if not, if you cannot have a passcode or some other way. But then there's also a thin line between security and user convenience. If you're going to add, if you're going to add all security and make life difficult for an end user, the end user will stop buying your product, and thereby you will not need the security anymore.
This friction thing is.
So I think there is always that gap, apart from the cost element, right? And a lot of these things, like using biometrics, face, thumb, is always nice to have. But then there again, you end up having this data security issue. Where are you going to store the biometric data where it gets authenticated with? So these are some challenges that we face. I don't think there's either a right or a wrong answer. It has to be directly a function of what is the end game, what is the money we are willing to put, and what are the legal regulations of not meeting certain guidelines. With India coming up with a data privacy bill, these things will now start, people will start taking these things more seriously and start implementing, because again, in the earlier session, that the speaker rightly said, there's a cost to non-compliance. So rather invest here than pay the money and have my organization shut down tomorrow because of non-compliance.
Thank you. Andre, if we come to you, you've got your microphone there. Come to you. It should be on, hopefully. your clients around the world using your platform to send SMS globally. Are you hearing from them any concerns about perhaps the volumes of A2P SMS decreasing and their business decreasing because of these pressures coming, could be the commercial model, could be the perceived or real lack of security in SMS, because after all, SMS was never developed to be two-way. That's the important thing. It's been around 30 years. Are you seeing that from your customers, those concerns?
A two-word answer, not really. As simple as that. So basically, the SMS authentication is still out there, and I'm sure it's going to remain there for quite a few years. Well, but SMS is not the only tool, the only means of authentication our customers are using. Flash calls are definitely out there, more and more, and I'd like to raise my voice for flash calls because they're neither good nor bad, they're just a technology. And the fact that aggregators lose money does not really make them bad. And so, to me, flash calls are just another telecom commodity, and we just need to think all together and work out a strategy to approach them.
Well, this is what MEF members came up with.
It.
So our Fraud and Revenue Assurance Working Group, so the members put together, some of them in this room, worked on the actual document, put it together, and that was the second most downloaded MEF report of the whole year on A2P voice flash.